I don't even want to call it a session. I can't even remember why we were sitting on the floor, what we were doing, but all of a sudden I saw right in front of me Jesus, Buddha, and Mary. And somehow, with my very sick mind, okay, this is the truth. I was very, very sick. I had a very sick mind. I didn't know how to live. I didn't know anything. But when I saw Jesus, Buddha, and Mary, I just knew something.
Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for being here. And for everyone who's new, thank you for joining my channel. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm really excited because I am talking with my new friend, Christina Renee. Hi, Christina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sharon. This is so exciting to be here on your show now.
Right? Christina just interviewed me on her show, her podcast, which is called Conscious Conversations. It's on YouTube and other platforms as well, correct?
Currently just on YouTube, but
Okay.
it will be on Spotify and Google soon.
Nice. Yes. Well, she's a go-getter, getting all this stuff out there. Good for you. So a little bit about Christina, and then I can't wait to hear about her story. We have so many things in common, for one thing. And then when we talked, when she interviewed me, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have an amazing journey so far. And I would love to expand more and talk to you about it on my channel. So thank you. Okay. So Christina is 15 years in recovery for addictions and 10 years sober. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. And I can't
Not
wait.
10 years yet, 10 years in December.
10 years in December. That's close to
the recovery community.
Gotcha.
So
So you're in your, would you call that your 10th year then? In your 10th year, maybe?
I am in my 10th year, yes.
So on her journey, she has become a life coach, a medium, a Reiki healer, and as we mentioned, she's growing her podcast, and she has amazing, well, besides me, people on her show. So be sure and check it out on YouTube, Conscious Conversations. I will have her links down in the details. And another thing we have in common, very, very important, is our relationship and our love for Jesus, Yeshua. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, I can't wait to hear how he's stood by your side and helped you throughout your journey. So please start sharing, Christine.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, what's interesting is that my journey has been really interesting. And I didn't always think so until, now I can look back and go, oh, wow, look at all how these pieces all fit together. So when I was really, really young, I had a gift and I didn't know what it was. And so I would hear things, I would see things, and I was raised Catholic. So anytime I would go to my parents and say, Mom, I think I hear God talking to me, or I saw someone in my room, I would get, don't pay attention to that because it's the devil tempting you. And I had a lot of different things when I was young. And so when I was 5, I started numbing myself out. And I used an eating disorder to do that. So when I was 5, I started dieting. And then probably around 2nd, 3rd grade, I actually saw an after-school special about bulimia. And so I got ideas, and that kicked off a whole nother level of the eating disorder. And there was a time when I was about in the 4th grade, I saw something in my room. And because of what I was told when I was a kid, I just made up that whatever I saw was the devil and he was coming to tempt me. So I got so afraid. I think it was about 2 to 3 years that I couldn't fall asleep. Like I had to have the light on. And I was so afraid to even just tell my parents. Like I was holding this fear and I couldn't tell anyone. So what I did, the only thing I could recall in my brain what to do was to grab my rosary and hold it like this, laying in bed with the lights on, saying, I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I love Jesus over and over and over again until I fell asleep. And outside of that particular experience, being in the Catholic religion, what I made up about Jesus when I was young was that he was this perfect being, this all knowing, someone I had to be like. But the message that I received or interpreted was that I could never actually achieve that level of perfection, is what I made up in my mind. So the eating disorder, perfectionism, all of these things were at play. So fast forward a little bit, I pretty much just kind of checked out during church. I didn't really pay attention. I didn't own the religion for me, because I didn't resonate and I didn't know it. I just thought, I'm numb and I'm just going to look over here and not look there. So when I was 27, 28, well, I started drinking when I was 19. So by 27, 28, I was anorexic, bulimic. I was partying all the time. So I was drinking, using drugs, and nothing in my awareness said that this is, your behaviors are bad. But inside, I knew something wasn't right. And I remembered, like how Jesus comforted me when I was a kid and how I was able to fall asleep. And so I started going to several different churches, to find my way, like in hindsight, I can see like, oh, that was my seeking for love. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I actually never really resonated. I actually felt more like an outcast when I went to these places. I mean, I was not a healthy person. I was very, very sick. Like I was in the hospital probably weekly due to dehydration. And so, but I didn't feel like, I just felt like there was a bunch of cliques. And that was what caused me to feel so insecure, way back in high school or junior high or even elementary school. And so I just stopped that effort. But I did get honest and I went to treatment and I had a spiritual therapist there. And I got to meet with her weekly while I was there. And I was there for 4 months. I was supposed to go for 30 days, but I was there for 4 months. Miracle gift. I mean, yeah, all of that. So I started to explore my own path while I was in treatment. And upon leaving, I was able to connect to a God-ish, by calling it the universe or calling it source, but I couldn't say God because that just felt, I don't know, it just didn't resonate. It felt too religious to me and it just, didn't work. But I did get the taste of spirituality. So I dove in. It resonated to me. I dove in. When I got out of treatment, that was part of my treatment plan. So I was in all these groups, which led me to the Way of Mastery and A Course in Miracles. And these communities that were meeting regularly to learn the context in A Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery, the majority of them were sober. And they were in 12-step programs. And so it was kind of like a new era for me. This was 5 years after I left treatment for the eating disorder. Is 2012, 2013. That's when I started to get into the workings of the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery. But before that, I need to say one thing, because this is very important to my relationship with Jesus. In March of 2012, I took 4 bottles of narcotics and I didn't die. I did not have a near-death experience because I did not die. I just took them and blacked out. And the intention was to take my life because I just couldn't handle this life anymore. I didn't want to. It was too hard. I didn't feel like I fit, just all kinds of pain and no hope and no guidance. And I was ready to go, but it didn't work. So I got out of that
Thank God. Thank you, God.
I mean, so
Thank
here,
you.
when I got out of treatment, I actually woke up in a psych ward. I actually came home that day and I actually got drunk and high. That's the truth. That's how bad my addiction was. But 2 days later, I had a friend who was a channel from Texas come, and she just flew out here to be with me. And we did a session. She was a channel, she was a medium as well. And we were sitting in my living room. I don't even want to call it a session. I can't even remember why we were sitting on the floor, what we were doing. But all of a sudden, I saw right in front of me Jesus, Buddha, and Mary. And somehow, with my very sick mind, okay, this is the truth. I was very, very sick. I had a very sick mind. I didn't know how to live. I didn't know anything. But when I saw Jesus, Buddha, and Mary, I just knew something. I was protected. I mean, obviously by 2 days later, I was like, okay, I took 4 bottles of narcotics and I didn't die. Like, that's got to be something. Like, I don't know what, right? But it has to mean something. I meant someone wants me here. Like, and so then I saw those 3 figures. I saw Jesus, Buddha, and Mary, and I just was like, okay, I'm listening. And once we came out of that moment, the next words out of my mouth was the first time I admitted that I had a problem. And I looked at my friend and I said, I can't drink anymore. Like, I think I'm an actual alcoholic and I don't think I can drink. Like, every time I do, something bad happens, and it was this whole revelation. I definitely believe that Jesus was there to show me that this is a new life for me. So in a way, I guess I did die. But at that point, yeah. So that summer, the summer of 2012, that's when I started learning Course in Miracles, Way of Mastery, and Christ consciousness just became like my biggest priority. To learn about it, to teach it, to be enveloped in it. And what happened was I only actually at that point put 90 days together. I went back out and I had another year of drinking and doing drugs and just using again. And what happened was I still was going to the Course in Miracles. I still was going to the Way of Mastery. At this point in my life, it wasn't just partying, right? Like, I would get loaded and I would become a messiah and I would speak spiritual truths about everything. And so, I was spiritual. Like, it was okay to be doing all these things because I'm going to study this and I'm going to study that and I'm learning the Way of Mastery. And honestly, to be completely transparent, I still had my sick mind because I hadn't done the work to change. And so I used actually a lot of the principles, I guess, the context of these workings, I use them to justify,
sure.
Like that it was okay. And really, I can see now in hindsight that what I was doing was just actually reminding myself that I was loved. And, it was the teachings of Jesus that reminded me that, because the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery for me were like taking everything I learned from religion, what I felt intuitively in my heart, which was true, and it kind of like unfolded what was actually real for me. And that was Jesus, and that he was a man, and that I can do anything. It doesn't matter how many drinks I have tonight, or it doesn't matter how many lines I take, or how many times I overdose. He's going to love me no matter what. So while I was using that kind of like to get away with it, not that there was anyone watching me, but I kind of used it, but also it was also to remind myself that, you know, even on this planet where I don't feel loved at the time, there are beings that love me. And so I did get sober on December 7th, 2013, and dived in deeper. My relationship with God, like everything, all the work I did. A lot of people told me too that I did the 12 steps in AA. And so many people told me, well, if you're doing Way of Mastery and you're studying Course in Miracles, it's like you've gotten your PhD and now you're in kindergarten. So,
Oh, they told
uh,
in the 12 step, you mean?
yeah, like the
Oh,
12 steps are like the prerequisite for the teachings in the Way of Mastery and the Course in Miracles.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So you know, I also started sponsoring girls right away. I mean,
Nice.
once I hit my bottom, that was the bottom. And
Yeah.
I went and I did the work and I sponsored other women in the program. And I have been using the teachings of Way of Mastery and Course in Miracles, Jesus's teachings. I've been using those in all of the works that I do, because to me, especially with being exposed to so many paths and interviewing so many people on my podcast, one part of my gift is that I feel truth. Like I can sniff out unintegrity, or I can
Hmm.
sniff out a lie. And so when I read A Course in Miracles for the first time, front to back, it just like spoke to my heart. Like I didn't even have to understand the words. I could feel the work. I could feel him in the work. I could, even now, I do the lessons daily. And every morning, I'm just like, I get to read this and be with.
Nice. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you, Christina, for sharing. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Yeah. Um, I've had this thought before. I've had this thought where, and I wonder what your thoughts are on this, is that sometimes people, including myself, who was a partier, right, uh, use the drugs, the alcohol to, uh, I know we've talked about to maybe escaping reality or whatever it is, and but I feel like sometimes it's also, and that could be part of it. It's multifaceted, to open up, because we feel so restricted here in modern society. Does that make any sense?
Yes, yes. And I want to like, so in agreeing with you, I want to paint a picture of the last probably 5 to 6 years of my partying, of my using. So a lot of it, drinking was always there. There was always alcohol. And that was the piece that I couldn't control.
Okay.
That was the thing I was addicted to. Like drugs were part of the equation.
Right.
But they were mushrooms and MDMA and honestly, I'm not kidding you. I mean, I would go to Burning Man. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a big festival, art, spirituality, all kinds of things in the desert. Um, that's a whole nother episode probably. But I would, you know, I was so good at being an addict. I mastered it, honestly. And so those 5 years, I was a life coach. I was hosting, you know, different spiritual communities.
Mhm.
And a lot of the using that I did was in a spiritual sense, like no joke.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were opened up and we would talk about spiritual principles and we would. And so, you know, that was also why it took me so long to really see that it was a problem, because there was so much love present when I was using, right? We
Yeah.
were all, you know, coming together to join to
Hmm.
learn about the truth of the universe. And yeah, but I definitely feel that I wouldn't recommend it as a path. Um, to be addicted. But there's a lot
Of
of
course not.
spiritual healers out there that use psychedelics, especially plant medicines,
Mhm.
to relax you enough to just pause and allow you to open up, because you can tap into more than what is in this physical reality
Right.
through
Yeah.
things like that.
Yes. I've used plant medicines in the last few years. I mean, when I
Mhm,
was partying, I was using, I've done mushrooms, a handful, and back in my
mhm.
day, there was acid. Well,
Yeah,
I used that
yeah,
too. And, and yeah, some, a couple of them weren't that much fun, but, but most of them, okay, we're
I
having fun,
agree.
that kind of thing. Uh, yeah, crazy times. But in recent years, last 5 years or so, 5, 6 years, I've done plant medicines in ceremony. So it wasn't in
Mhm.
a partying setting.
Yes.
Since I was
Mhm.
used to partying with mushrooms and I was in a psilocybin ceremony, I'm like, oh, we're just gonna laugh and have a good time. That's not what happened.
Right.
So it was a deep dive, very deep dive. And I'm like, yeah, this is intense.
Yeah.
And I could see why it needs to be in a ceremony type of setting and with a shaman
Mhm.
or someone who knows what they're doing to
Yeah.
facilitate. And it was with good friends where we would meet to do this and other things in the metaphysical realm. But
Mhm.
yeah, I totally agree with you. We were given these plants and these medicines
Yes.
to help us heal, but they're not meant to be used on a regular basis, which can
Right.
cause problems, definitely
Yeah.
in that setting. So it's and and of course I would imagine know it talking to the shaman I know that she sees that as not honoring the medicine.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I get
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've never done any substances in a ceremonial context. And I don't know if I ever will. That would be true. Just because of how much I value my sobriety. And when I work with clients, when I interview guests on my podcast, there is a common theme around past behaviors of, partaking in things like that, or even breath work. Breath work
Mm-hmm.
can allow you to achieve that same uh, relaxed state where you can see beyond what is just in this world
Oh,
as well.
totally. I mean, I was having immense deep dive experiences when I first started working with Yeshua in meditation. And I wasn't doing drugs or anything. I had
Mhm.
quit. Yeshua helped me quit.
Right.
Excuse me. My stepfather
Yeah.
also that passed helped me quit. And when after he passed,
I think that's something we have in common. I believe that he helped me quit. He led me. He
right,
called and he led me
mhm,
to his works with people who were in a program that
right,
could help me get sober.
exactly, yeah. And we're led there, and then it's up to us to be disciplined. But
Mhm.
yeah, at that time I wasn't. I mean, I don't party anymore,
Mhm.
but I'm too old for that now anyway. But but it's like I was deep diving in meditation and fasting, and having the most amazing experiences and peeling away the layers, remembering childhood memories and things like that that were so it you don't have to. I agree. I probably won't do any ceremonial or plant medicine like that again because I did. I'm gonna say a handful different
Mhm.
types, and it's like okay, I think I'm done with this. I've done it.
Mhm.
I've done 5 or 6 medicines, and okay, I think I'm done. I'm good for now. Yeah, until next go around, whenever that is, and then I won't probably be attracted to anything like that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of curiosity. I won't like hide that from anyone to partake in ayahuasca. And I'm not seeking it out actively
Right.
because, like you said, there are times where in a meditative state, I can be in multiple places at once. And I don't know. I can't compare it. I don't really actually have anything to compare it to because I've never done it, but I do feel that, we don't need those
No,
to access those, but they are
no.
available. And sometimes what I do actually feel to be true is that there is a jolt somehow that's needed, right? Like
Mhm.
I tried to kill myself and I woke up in a psych ward, right? And so call it a bottom, call it a jolt, call it something. But I do believe that there's, whether you go out and find it or it happens to you, there's always a little like nudge that will create that opening. And
Definitely.
I believe too, if you
Hmm.
ask for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Sometimes, a lot of times we forget to ask, and that comes through in a lot of my sessions, and I'm sure in yours too, in your life coaching. It We forget to ask, and we can't get a lot of help and guidance if we don't ask. Sometimes, yeah,
Yeah,
totally. My
I
jolt, well,
forget
I had two, was my NDE, of course, but my first one was when my dad died. Yeah,
that. Uh-huh.
before that, that was my jolt because I was a partier,
Yeah.
and and yeah, I was standing there doing cocaine, and he was in the day or two after he died. I felt him so strong standing right next to me and said,
Mhm.
"What the hell are you doing?" He said that. I mean, yelled at me. What the hell? I'm like, wait a minute, my dad's right here. I can't do this. And I had never done it since. I haven't done it since.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
that was very
Yeah.
powerful for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't addicted, but I felt like I was on that way. I could
Hmm.
feel it. I could feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the time I got sober too. I was never physically dependent on a drug, just alcohol. And I wasn't
Mhm.
physically dependent. It was just the pattern, right? Like
Yeah.
I could go a day or two. I had kids, so I had boundaries and rules. I'm not going to be drunk in front of my kids. And so I could adhere to that, which is also why it took so long for me to realize it was a problem. I struggled. I was a relapser, a constant relapser. I got out of treatment and I manipulated everyone, my treatment team, my family, just so they would leave me alone so that I could act out. But right before I stopped completely with the eating disorder and right before I got sober, I did hit a moment where I was on my knees and I was so desperate. And what led me to get sober was a couple of months of praying and asking God to disrupt my life. I asked him, I said, disrupt my life enough for me to stop this. And in my brain, right, I thought that it was going to be a car accident or an injury so that I could be like in bed with pills or, another substance, right?
Yeah.
But that I couldn't go to happy hour or I couldn't go to a club. It was like, stop that. And what happened was I got pregnant both both times. My kids are 5 years apart. So I got out of treatment. I relapsed, found out I was pregnant, and the desire to act out in the eating disorder behaviors was gone, just gone completely.
Amazing. I love
And
that.
then I find out in 2013, on December 7th, 2013, I find out I'm pregnant with my youngest. And my first thought was, okay, God, I'm going to go to AA and I'm going to do the work. And I didn't even realize until a year later when I was speaking at a meeting, my first year sober, when I'd got my year, that I was like, God didn't hurt me. He gave me a baby.
Gave you a gift.
He gave me a gift,
Wow, that's
more than a
amazing.
gift. I mean,
Yeah.
the gift of my son, but the gift of sobriety every day.
Yes. Yes.
Every day.
Ooh, man, that brings
Yeah.
tears. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's what like living my life was like really kind of a mess. But when I talk about it, from this viewpoint, it's like, look at all the divinity in every single step along the way.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get teary eyed too, because
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I need to get out the Kleenex here. Okay.
I mean, and Sharon, you don't even know, like, I tried for 5 years to stop. I mean, I put in effort, not all the time. There were times where I was like, who cares? I'm an alcoholic, whatever. This is who I am. This is how I'm going to be.
Deal with it
But
kind
for
of
the
thing.
majority
Yeah.
of those 5 years, I tried. I tried to stop
Yeah.
and I couldn't. And then that day, right? But I hadn't asked before either. I hadn't asked for help.
Yeah.
I hadn't surrendered.
Surrender. There it is. Surrender. That was my biggest thing too with
Yeah.
working with Yeshua was surrendering. I, we have a tough time with that, don't we?
Yeah. It's really hard.
Yeah, it is.
Even after 10 years or 15 years, depending on when you want to start the eating disorder or, sobriety from alcohol, I still find myself holding on so tight, to this world or to my ideas. And
Mhm.
I would say it's probably been in the past year or two, maybe two, that I've really made a conscious effort to just directly ask Jesus in all of my affairs. That's what we say. We practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Right. Yeah.
That's hard to do. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, after a while I get used to just being it rather than doing it. And we've heard this before, being and just being the Christ energy, just being, and if I have to make a decision and something's challenging for me too, I'll say, okay, that saying, what would Jesus do? I ask him, okay, what would you do in this situation? What would you do? Help me with this. I need to know. And then it's my decision. Whether I
Right.
do it that way or the ego's way, right? Sharon way, which probably I'm going to say 100% of the time doesn't work out right.
I actually, I have a client who always asks me, what would Jesus do? And I tell him, I don't know, ask him. He will help you if you ask.
There you go. Yeah, of course. That's that's what he does. Yeah,
Yeah.
he does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he
And
wants us
when you
to ask.
just said being Christ energy, when you said that, I remembered something else we had talked about before we pressed record. Because it wasn't even like Jesus or God, it was Christ. It was Christ, that word, that connection. So my name is Christina Renee. And my mother, who is Catholic, who had me baptized, I went through all the sacraments, like up until I made my confirmation. She specifically named me Christina Renee, Christina after Christ, and Renee means born again. And her intention in naming me Christina Renee was, it means to her, Christ is risen. And
Wow.
it was that connection also throughout. It was something I just felt so proud of when she would tell me that.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, there's no mistakes, right? Like I've heard from pre-birth memory people that we actually pick our own name. I don't know, but that played a huge part in not rejecting Jesus when I was young. Because I rejected the entire Catholic religion,
Yeah.
but I didn't
Mhm.
reject Jesus.
Yes.
It was Christ, the Christ consciousness, that Christ energy
Right.
that somehow kept guiding me.
Hmm. and supported you. You knew that, right? That part of you knew. That's amazing.
Uh-huh.
Have you, this is out of left field, but
Yeah.
have you seen the photo from the chronovisor that apparently that the Vatican has been hiding of Jesus, supposedly of Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea and his brother perhaps standing behind him? Have you seen that photo?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
do you know what a chronovisor is?
I don't.
Oh, okay, so it's a time travel machine that the
Oh,
Vatican was using, and
yeah.
there's a whole lot of information on it out there. And apparently, when this priest was working with it, they were able to watch the crucifixion and before, and they'd seen, and they were able to watch different.
Yeah.
And so there's one photo that was apparently leaked. I guess I don't know. I
Mhm.
should pull it up of Christ. I was wondering what you felt about it. Are you
Yeah.
okay pulling it up? Okay.
I would love to see it. Yeah.